Disruptors, I want to welcome you to your first franchise podcast. I got a very special guest with me today. Her name is Stephanie Ruby. She is a development director for Bio1, and she comes all the way from Canada, 11 years experience in the franchising world, and you are now based in Tampa. So, Stephanie, welcome to the show. And I have a question for you, but
Yes.
you're in Tampa.
Yep.
It's in New Orleans. We're rainy right now. What's it like where you guys are?
It's hot. It's so
Hot. I know.
This is our winter where we don't go outside and we sit inside and we enjoy our air conditioning until it cools down a little bit. And we
I
out
get
in the
it.
winter when
I
everybody.
get it. I get it. All right. So this is my question for you. In Tampa, I had not been to Tampa in 20 years, and I went there last year. And I was shocked how much it had grown. And it's such a great food town as well. When you're doing business, where do you take people to do business to close the deal?
Ocean
The
Prime.
breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Ocean Prime.
Ocean Prime.
I prefer business dinner because I do
Okay.
enjoy a glass of wine.
Okay, I gotcha. I know that's how you and I met over dinner at one of your events for 5-star brands. Yes,
Right.
So,
Yeah. That's how I've met a few people over the years.
now, what is it about Ocean Prime?
The food is just so good. I've never been disappointed.
What's your favorite dish?
Scallops.
Shells.
This is more dish. Hands down.
All
It's
right.
for get good fresh seafood or
Okay.
cold water seafood, I should say, in Florida,
Yep.
but they seem to get the good cold water seafood. So
Good deal. All right. My favorite question I always ask is, who or what are you grateful for that helped you get you where you are today?
my family, obviously my kids, because they're motivators. I have
Mhm.
5-year-olds and 11-year-olds.
Wow.
Boys, they're just so opposite. So they're my little motivators. My husband, because I wouldn't be able to do what I do without him.
Mm-hmm.
And then my parents, my sister, my late brother, just they're the rocks for me to do everything that I do. So
The family is the why, and I get it. That's important. Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, let's dive into the brand. You represent Bio1, a very unique brand. In when people think of franchising, they're probably never even thought about this as a possibility. They're thinking food, maybe the service sector, but it's usually food, right? And you are in a space that is so niche and so in high demand, but people don't know it's there because it's kind of behind the scenes. So let's unpack Bio1 and what it is you do. What is the problem that Bio1 saw in the marketplace, and how do we solve it?
yeah, so it's interesting, right? We're the type of service that, for the most part, we hope families never need to know about us,
Mhm.
but we are in the background, and we do what we do with compassion, discretion, and care.
Mhm.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're a biohazard. So we are biohazard crime scene and trauma cleanup company.
Mhm.
And ultimately, we were founded to prevent families from being re-traumatized by cleaning up certain situations that they should never have to do. So very,
Wow.
very simple model, not
Mhm.
always a pretty model, but it's certainly a necessary one because at the end of the day, somebody has to do it, and it should be families.
And so let's talk about the services that you all provide, because I mean, there's probably different verticals or layers of service that you cover, and then we'll share how this works as a franchise, because it is a unique opportunity. And there are some folks in this. There are certain people with certain backgrounds that make a great fit. We'll talk about what that looks like toward the end of the show, but it really applies to anybody. But there are certain areas that people really gravitate to do well in this space. Um, let's look at the services that you all provide. You kind of gave us a broad overview. Uh, what are the main areas that you all focus on, and
So
what are some unique areas that you all focus
stupid. They're all great. So I think there's technically speaking 20 core revenue streams.
on?
One of my colleagues, she actually jokes around that we do everything from fentanyl to feces and
Oh,
everything in between.
oh wow,
So yeah, yeah. So the business
that's
model,
that's that's a tagline. Fentanyl
you're
defeats.
never limited core revenue streams, nor do you ever have to take a job.
Right.
Right. Some of our owners have seen some unique things.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some unique stories. Some of them lived in my head, but
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. So there's kind of like two different buckets, if you will. One would
Mhm.
be the biohazard side, which would be undiscovered death,
Mhm.
decomp, homicide cleanup, suicide cleanup, blood spill,
Yes.
the ick stuff, right?
Mhm.
And then on the other side of it, we have the hoarding side. So we're
Mm.
dealing with usually level 3 through 5 hoard. It's kind of the worst of the worst, but our franchise owners, some of them have found rooms in homes that they didn't even know exist.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
so yeah, it can get pretty expensive, but any and everything
Level
else can, will, but mostly should do. And so definitely a psychological barrier to entry, right? For
yeah.
most people, because it's not something everybody is okay being exposed to. But
Mhm.
then really at the end of the day, the big one for us is, and we say it all the time, but preventing families from being re-traumatized by being left with certain situations. So yeah, anything and everything nobody else can, will, or should do.
So I'm looking at it from okay, that's from the family side, right?
Huh.
So then you look at it from, I mean, that could be a family death or whatever it is in the house. But I'm also looking at like business side, right? Hotels. I'm sure they're calling on a service like yours because you never hear what goes on behind the scenes of a hotel, but there's a lot that goes on behind the
We
scenes of a
want
hotel.
to.
Yeah.
So my husband works at a JW Marriott, right? So
Okay.
it's not a horrible hotel. It's a decent place.
But
They've had to use services like
yep.
ours
Every
for
hotel has. Every single hotel has.
property management, condos, apartment rentals, Airbnbs. I mean, there's just so much opportunity with that side of the business. Yeah.
So those are two big buckets. Are there any other areas that are kind of odd that you all? What about? Do you all do car accidents? Was that fall into this space at all? Or
It can, if
okay,
there's biomatter, and it's depending on the area. So
okay,
from what I understand, some areas like in Florida, I don't think Florida cares, right? Like they're
yeah,
gonna let the weather wash it away. But from what I understand, some areas do.
yeah.
And so there's
Resort,
yeah, like there's and so we have franchise owners. They have contracts, multi-year contracts with their cities for things like homeless encampments,
gotcha,
low income housing, it's if their emergency vehicle decontamination, right? And so there's
gotcha.
so much opportunity that it's different owners also have a tendency to gravitate towards different things. Like some prefer the crime scene side of the business, others
Okay.
prefer the hoarding because it's I consider it like reverse Tetris, right? Because there's
Hmm.
logistics and organization and very procedural. And so it's unique too, because you will see based on personality types and preferences, owners leaning towards one side of the business or certain revenue streams
Wow,
that others don't. Yeah.
that they're comfortable with.
Yep.
Yeah. So, when somebody's going into this, what's the training? I mean, obviously, this is a very, I know it's a fast ramp up for
Yeah.
the industry, which is
Yeah.
good. So very, what's the ramp up time for somebody to get in this business?
Not long. So believe it or not, like this is still an emerging industry, so it's still
Okay.
highly unregulated. We were
Okay.
in the space, we are the largest in the space, and we're backed by 5 stars, so we're going to continue to dominate.
Mhm.
But again, not a lot of regulations. Very few states have
Mhm.
anything outside of what we provide, right? And so ramp up period average from signing your agreement to being operational, depending
Mhm.
on when you sign, you're looking at 30 to 60 days.
That's
Uh,
fast.
yeah, and so the hoarding side of the business, we can get going really, really quickly through the
Mhm.
online marketing and media, and just like lead generation, like any other business.
Mhm.
Whereas certain jobs, because of the pure sensitive nature of what we do, we can't
Mhm.
market to online. Like you can't use suicide cleanup
Right.
run for online AdWords, and so those will come through referral partners in the community. But I went off track here. Training and support, yes.
Mhm.
So there is
We'll come back to how y'all help them launch. Yeah.
okay. But do you want me to go training support?
Yeah. Let's go to training sport. We'll come back to that.
So we're
Mhm.
actually led by Danessa Itea. I consider her franchise famous. She's
Mhm.
been around a long time. She knows what she's doing. She was brought in to lead the charge for Bio One, and
Mhm.
she's built an entire team underneath her. And
Mhm.
so, from signing your agreement to coming to classroom training, you're going to be working with an onboarding specialist who's going to hold your hand on everything that needs to happen. And so,
Mhm.
there's a 30-day runway from signing your agreement to coming to classroom training, just taking care of learning the technology, getting all of those little ducks in a row. You come
Okay.
to classroom training,
Mhm.
and you're going to be ready to launch and go the moment you graduate. It's actually
Mhm.
not uncommon for our owners to already have jobs and or estimates scheduled
Mhm.
by the time they leave. And so classroom training, there's an entire day built on networking, right? 'Cause
Okay.
that's such a huge part of it.
Mhm,
And I don't consider it selling. Like you're
mhm,
not selling in this business. We can't knock on doors and say, hey, let's talk about your crime scene cleanup needs today. It's
mhm,
not how it works. And so we spend an entire day on how to build relationships with local law
mhm,
enforcement, coroners, medical examiners.
mhm,
We have the practice in real time. So we get an entire day spent
mhm,
on the relationship building. Second day is generally spent on estimating and
mhm,
quoting because that's a huge part of it.
mhm.
So they're practicing in real time in the technology. But then from there, here's where it gets fun, depending on what you consider fun. But Wednesday is mock crime scene cleanup day.
Mhm,
And so they will spray the break room down with sheep's blood.
mhm.
You can get anything on Amazon these days, just so you know, including sheep blood. So they'll spray the break room down with sheep's blood. I can't make this
I
up.
wasn't I didn't know where you're going there with this, but yeah, now we know. Go ahead.
You know, I
So
know. And so what we do is that, and I went through training. Luckily enough, there was not enough room in the crime scene room for me to fit as well, and I wasn't mad at it. But so then Wednesday mock crime scene cleanup, they're going to learn how to don all the PPE, what mask to wear, which glasses to wear, how to double tape, double booty, and to make sure we're on OSHA safety guidelines, right? And so we
yeah.
learn to don and doff the PPE. They're going to learn how to use the chemicals, the air fogger.
Mhm,
They're going to practice with them. They're going to learn what goes in red bag versus yellow bag, how
mhm.
to doff the PPE is what it's called, so taking it off safely, and how to dispose of everything. And so they will decontaminate a crime scene. From
Wow.
there, we are in Denver currently, and we have multiple owners in the Denver area. And so it's really, really common as well for our franchise owners to get to
Mhm.
shadow and
Okay.
participate in jobs in real time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So so you mentioned PPE. That's so I've been at this for a while now, and I've gone to a lot of conferences in the franchising world. And you and I met about a year ago at one of those conferences. In the past year, I've seen some great speakers and great presentations. And there are those that you forget real quick, and they're quick. No, they're not even in memory banks, but there are those you never forget. And you're one of those presentations that just stands out. You can't forget it. And I believe, and you were wearing your hazmat suit, or is it PPE? What do you call it? Your hazmat suit,
Biosuit, yeah.
fire suit.
So since then I've picked it up a notch, but I will present in the biosuit, just because they're fun, right? Like it's
You're in
you.
character. Yes.
So, and I listen, I'm all about branding. I don't know if you can see it. I've got my hazard necklace. I have
There you go.
another one that says toxic. But yeah, no. So I've learned to glam my PPE up.
Oh, there
Uh,
you go.
oh, I've got like my little bio one glammed up jacket that I wear now. It's a
There
little too
you go.
much to wear in Florida
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sake. And then I've got I haven't debuted this one yet, so you guys are getting a sneak peek at my next
Okay.
one. My fur bio suits. You've got the logo on the back. It's fun. You gotta have to have fun with it. But
Yes.
it's such a unique brand that one, it just makes it easy to stand out. Two, for those who don't know, I'm really, really tall, so that also helps. But you gotta have fun with the bio.
And you captivate the audience. I mean, you got everybody's attention. And but for those listening, the way consultants like myself learn about brands is we go to these conferences. You all as franchisors make these presentations, and we also get the opportunity to visit a lot of the franchisors headquartered. And we had a chance to visit Five Star with you guys in Utah not that long ago. So, and that's something else I should mention here. You mentioned Five Star, but Five Star is a huge conglomerate of brands that started with a painting company that evolved into all these multiple brands. So you get the back end support of some of the best systems and processes in the marketplace.
One,
And you are one of those brands. Let's talk about so I like to lead. Normally I don't lead with, give me a description of how fast it did to get into the business. I led with that question for a specific reason. Most businesses do not get up in 30 to 60 days. The next question, usually I lead with, what is the investment level to get into this business?
so lowest investment level to date, just shy of 120.
Hmm.
Highest, just shy of 170.
Okay.
So it's also a financially, it's an appeasing price point for a lot of people.
It is. And that's an entry point. But people think in food, they're looking at starting point 350, 400. up into the millions, because they need brick and mortar. Whereas this do they work out of their house and do they eventually get to an office, or is it strictly a house case?
So they'll start from home. They
Okay.
don't, sorry, I got fur in my mouth from my body. It's all it's happening.
That's
We recommend starting from home whenever possible. It is a very quick ramp, home-based business, because at
hmm
the end of the day, really what they're starting with is 2 to 3 part-time technicians,
2 to
a
3. Okay.
box truck, and we scale from there.
Okay.
So whenever possible, I do encourage them starting from home. I mean, there's a reality though that as they continue to grow and scale and add vehicles and people,
Yeah.
they'll probably move into some sort of light industrial space, but it really
Okay.
depends on parking. That's the big thing.
That's the biggest.
You know,
Okay.
is to have your guys' feet.
So it only takes it's 2 people plus the owner, or is it just the first? What do you see happening? Is it somebody starting in the business hiring a person, or are they starting with a manager and hiring people? What does that look like?
We see both.
Okay.
We see both. We are seeing more and more people bring managers to training on the front end.
Okay.
More and more owners sending managers because the rule of thumb is, and I've heard owners say this, is 2 plus you, right? So depending on the size of the job, it's beneficial to have 2 people doing the work, somebody overseeing for
Mhm.
safety purposes. And again, that's depending on the size of the job.
Mhm.
I'm a big believer in getting 3 part-timers as quick as you can, because
Mhm.
then you can kind of target who you want to groom up to
Mm.
put in a position that then you are bringing to leadership so that it alleviates the franchise owners from having to do every estimate and every being on every job site.
And there's something else that stood out when talking about your brand. You all, but will buy a one pays pretty well, so you do not have a problem finding quality people.
Usually not. And so we recommend, so who they hire is always up to them, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm a big believer in part-time flex technicians because if you
Mhm.
have a technician that only works when there's jobs,
Mhm.
then the cost of that technician is covered by the client when they pays versus if you have a full-time 40-hour weeker, that's considered overhead, right? So again, I'm a
Gotcha.
big believer, but who they hire up to them. We do recommend first responders such as EMTs, firemen, certified nursing assistants, LPNs,
Mhm.
veterans, people who traditionally will work shift work, so they might be 3 days on, 4 days off.
Okay.
Most of them work second jobs anyways, right? Like they have a side hustle because they don't get paid a lot.
Okay.
And so we recommend kind of this profile because one, they have the flexibility.
Mhm.
They already have a stomach built in for what we do
Mhm.
outside of classroom training. And
Mhm.
I haven't seen much, but what I have been told is that once you've seen a few things, you've seen it all. And so that first responder, they've already seen the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
So they have the flexibility, they have the stomach, they also have the compassion and care. And
Mhm.
going back to, at the end of the day, we're dealing with people in their worst of times. And so we
Mhm.
have to lead with compassion, we have to lead with care. And so
Mhm.
that's why we recommend who we recommend. Generally speaking, depending on the job, we can also afford to pay between $30 to $60 per hour.
Mhm.
What you will find is people will do more for $50 an hour than they will
Mhm.
for 15,
Mhm.
which is also another really cool part of the model. And I get excited about this because I've worked for some models that have you need a ton of labor. And
Mhm.
when you have those high labor models, you're all fighting for the same person who's willing to work for 12 to 15
Mhm.
dollars an hour.
Mhm.
We're not competing in the minimum wage pool.
Mhm.
So it means it makes it easier to hire. You got higher quality. And again, even if you're strapping on a non-breathable
Mhm.
biosuit, people
Mhm.
are willing to do it for good money.
That makes sense, and I love the model. Let's talk since we talked about the expense part, because that's the biggest probably the expense there is hiring the people for this business. Um, what's the revenue look like for this business?
Yeah. So top line revenue, we have our top dog. He does about $1.2 million out of one location. I mean, there's a range in there. But our top producers are generally seeing per office location 500 to that 1.2.
500. Oh, wow, that's awesome. So ideal candidate. Oh no, before I get to the ideal candidate, the marketing, starting this up. You alluded to it with the networking, and I was at a networking meeting this morning. I posted about it today on LinkedIn, um, and that is that the core piece of the business? Because, like you said, it'd be hard to advertise for some of the services that you all provide. So
Yeah.
it's networking with the policemen, it's working with firemen, EMTs. How else do you all support them from the backside to get them launched?
Yeah, so what's this is another really neat part about the model. And like outside of what the owners do, like our model is really, really cool. Not always pretty, but fairly simple and compared to other models, right? And so in addition to the fact that we have multiple revenue streams, there's actually multiple different ways to generate those leads, right? And so
Mhm,
we lay the foundation with the online marketing and media, right? And so just like any other business, we need a good website. It needs to be micro embedded with keywords that people are searching for in the area to drive traffic to it. We get their
mhm,
social set up. We have all the content, and we can do online AdWords for certain revenue streams.
mhm,
And so you've got things like hoarding. People will Google search hoarding.
mhm,
Hoarding, gross filth, animal feces, mold, like the Google search words. We're
mhm,
going to start generating revenue really, really quickly through online ads, targeted social, just like any other business. So that's going to be one branch, right? Is the
mhm,
online lead
mhm,
generation.
mhm,
From there, again, because of the sensitive nature of some of the jobs, and the reality is too that when a family is traumatized, they don't know what to search for.
mhm,
All we need is our referral partners to look at the family and say, "Hey, Bio One can help you." And so we're integrating ourselves in the community with medical examiners, coroners, EMTs, local law
mhm,
enforcement, funeral homes. Because the reality is all we need is to be
mhm,
top of mind when they're
mhm,
faced with a family in need. Like in
mhm,
property management hotel companies, like those are all opportunities, property flippers, home inspectors. Like
mhm.
there's so much opportunity when you integrate yourself, but those trauma jobs are usually coming from referral partners.
That makes
What
sense.
I tell people going through the process, it's not hard, it just takes activity.
Mhm.
'Cause and I think in any home service model, what I've seen over the years is you can't go call on a business once, or you can't go to one networking event and say, "Oh, it didn't work for me."
No,
It didn't work.
it's
It takes multiple impressions, just like you and I, how many times in the past year,
mhm,
more we
mhm,
see each other a lot.
mhm.
But
That's right.
so it takes multiple impressions for people to remember you. And so we encourage our owners to do pastry drops, pastry with a
Okay.
police key, coffee with a coffee.
Ah, yeah.
If they have a tournament, right? And so usually the local law enforcement will have some sort of fundraiser tournament. We get in there, we sponsor it. And so we feed them and we sponsor them. There's two
Gotcha.
things no organization will ever say no to, and that is free food and money for their causes.
Mhm,
But our owners, what you will hear is they do it because they want to, they enjoy
mhm.
it, they want to make a difference. And the added value is that pays itself off in brand recognition and revenue.
That makes a lot of sense for the strategy of that, bringing that to market. And it is true. Networking is a practice skill, and you get better at like everything else, you get better at the more you do it. And
Everything.
the
It's my first conference, which was IFPG years ago, but, I'm an introvert. People don't believe me, but I remember walking into that room and being overwhelmed by hundreds of people, and I'm like, "I need to find a safe person. I need to find someone that will talk to me," right? So I remember going back, but you're right. It's you get better every single time. You just have to.
well, now that you said that, I would have never known.
'Cause I had my Myers-Briggs done years ago. They told me they had never seen anybody rank as high on the introversion scale as I. I'm like, "But
Wow.
yeah."
Well, you've definitely worked on it and overcome that.
So
I Ideal candidate. What okay, you I think you alluded to it. Some could have been people who have been EMTs or first responders, etc. People can come from any profession because it's a very simple business model to learn. What do you see? What's typical? What do you all look for?
there's not too much typical at
Okay.
BioLink. There's so
Okay.
much across the board. And so, yeah,
Okay.
we definitely have a presence of, vets, former first responder, current firemen, former firemen, like that first responder profile. We definitely have a strong presence of that because they get it. They see the need, right?
Okay.
They've been exposed to it.
Nice.
From there, we have multiple franchise consultants that are franchise owners.
Mm-hmm.
We've got business consultants, real
Mm-hmm.
estate agents, because they're already exposed to kind of the hoarding side of the business
Mm-hmm.
and gross filth, right? And so, a lot of real estate agents. Gosh, who else? I've got multiple PhDs. I have someone who was a stay-at-home mom for 18 years. Like it is so
Wow. It's
impressive.
all over the map.
One common denominator and what it really comes down to, and you'll hear the owners talk about why they aligned with Bio One. It's because they want to make an impact. They want to give back to the
I love it.
community. They like bringing closure to families in need. Like they're very altruistic, I would say is the word.
I love that. All right. Top guidance. You've been doing this for 11 years in the franchise
Mhm.
world. You've seen a lot. What is your top guidance to someone considering or going into the franchise business? What is your top guides? Or even if they get going, what do you, where do you steer people? How do you guide people?
with how to be successful.
Yes. Yeah. What is your number one piece of guidance for them going in, looking at this and going into it?
Activity breeds results.
Okay.
And I have learned that from a mentor many, many years ago. Going back to your
Mhm.
statement, you don't need to be good at it initially, but
Yeah.
activity will breed results. And we can come up with the standard answers that we all want, like follow the model,
Yep.
follow the
Yep.
plan, that's what it's there for. That's why you align with a franchise. But I would say trust the process. And at the end of the day, activity breeds results. Because again, even if you're not good at it, you will learn to be good at it. And really, at the end of the day, half of the battle is just getting out there. So just go.
Activity breeds results. That is the perfect place for us to button this up. Stephanie, I want to thank you. Folks, if you're interested in Bio One, get in touch with me. I'm working with Stephanie and her team and all of her team at Five Storage. Scott Abbott has put a phenomenal, so he puts the resources in behind the brands that he supports and brings into his fold, and world-class organization. So Bio One, love what you do. You do a phenomenal job doing it. And thank you for your time here today,
Oh,
Stephanie.
thank you for having me. This was
Yep.
fun.
It's and so people can get in touch with me, you just visit yourfirstfranchise.com, yourfirstfranchise.com, hit the contact us button. I will be in touch. And Stephanie, thank you. And that is a wrap with Stephanie. And folks, this is such a unique niche. The demand for this niche is through the roof. It's just like she said, getting out there and taking the action and letting people know it's available because the demand is there. And those that are top of mind will get the business. And this is a huge opportunity in any major market. Any market really needs this service. So get in touch with me, yourfirstfranchise.com. And by the way, got my brand new book. And I talked about the different brands in here, the different sectors of franchising that are available. Everybody's thinking food. Biohazard is one of those unique brands that I talk about in the book. And Your First Franchise Roadmap is a pathway I provide you. I get asked a lot of questions. What's the process look like? I'll walk you through it right here. Or you can get in touch with me at yourfirstfranchise.com. Hit the contact us button. Do me a favor, hit like, subscribe, ring the bell, all those things, because we're building a community. We're going to continue to grow the community, and you're part of this community. I appreciate you being here and being part of it. And for those of you that have been with me for a little while, you know the drill. Be intentional and make today a great day. Bye bye.